Jihad won't end while we have breath. You know that is no lie. Jihadis say that they love death even more than this paisley tie. But we will stand, for we love life. God will prevail, the true God, that is, over hate and strife. Ladies and gentlemen, that's right. It's once again another thrilling episode of This Week in Jihad. We have the great Dr. David Wood with us, and I am Robert Spencer, author of the Quran. Before we start, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Jake, the Muslim metaphysician, who I know is watching tonight. Jake has been watching everything I do very avidly, looking for ammo to tell. Although, since he lies so much, I don't know why he doesn't just make it up once again. What do you think, David?
Oh, I think we are living in one of the greatest times in history.
Living the dream.
We are living the dream right now. Yeah, Robert, I mean, you've experienced this because you were doing it longer than I was, but I experienced it over and over again. It's like we hear everyone saying, "Oh, Islam's a religion of peace. It's wonderful. It's so great," and we go, "Wait, we're reading what it actually says." And I think there's a problem here. Before you embrace it, maybe you want to take a closer look at this stuff. And they go, no, 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 it's a religion of peace and tolerance, and it's great, and all this. And we're looking at it going, I don't know, man. There's all this stuff here. They kill apostate. Hey, it says kill apostate. It says, hey, you can marry little kids. And the response, no, that's a lie. I went and asked my friend, and he said it's a lie. Like, we're quoting Muhammad and the Quran here. You're quoting your friend. Your friend is not, has never been, and never will be an authoritative source of Islamic doctrine or practice. Are you stupid? Right? And what happens after years of us trying to do that? What do they? They call us racist. They call us bigots. They call us every single thing you can come up with. And I'm not talking about what like keyboard jihadis are calling. I'm talking about journalists and politicians and educators, entertainers, everyone. We're the bad guys here. Like, wait a minute, we're telling you what we're telling you the reality of what is coming at you, and they hate us for it. They hate us for it, and it gets to a point where I'm like, why are we trying to warn these people? If you are this hell bent on being subjugated, why am I going to try and rescue you here? Why am I going to try? We're trying to help you. You're attacking us. I just sometimes I just want to put my hands up and say, all right, you go ahead and you'll get what you deserve. But we didn't. We kept at it. Because there are people who are listening, so we just kept at it. And anyway, this goes way back to, I'm talking probably 2006 ish. It's in the neighborhood of 2006, and I was me and Nabil were this was right after Nabil had become a Christian, and we were interested in watching debates and so on. And every debate we could find between a Muslim and a non-Muslim was almost always on a Christian topic. It's always on the deity of Christ, or on the Trinity, or on Jesus' death and resurrection, or the reliability of the New Testament. It was very rare to have something where anything in Islam was actually on the table for discussion. And you looked into it, and what was happening was when people wanted to debate back then, they'd go to a Muslim organization and say, hey, we want to have a debate. And then they get back and say, okay, the debater is this guy, and he's willing to debate these topics on Christianity. And back then, it was pretty standard to say when you went into a debate. So you're a Christian, and you two organizations set up a debate, and you go in for your debate. It was pretty standard beforehand for the Muslim delegation to walk up and say, just so you know, if Muhammad or the Quran are criticized at any point in this debate, it's over. All the Muslims are getting up and walking out, just so you know. And so they'd go the entire debate. Not one word would be criticized about Islam. And meanwhile, the Muslim guys blasting away at the New Testament and the Trinity and everything else, and the Christians trying to defend it. And every debate leaves you with the impression that Christians are on the defensive and Muslims are attacking. Muslims have nothing to defend, and so on. Anyway, we noticed that was going on back then. And I said, we argue with these guys online. We argue with these guys on platforms and so on. And it seems like there are people who are willing to defend this stuff. It's just not the hand-picked guys that Muslim organizations put forward. Right. There are Muslims who are willing to defend the killing of apostates and child marriage and all this stuff, but they're not the ones who are being put forward by these organizations. I said, if we could get some of these other guys on stage, then instead of pretending that it doesn't exist or never acknowledging that these things exist in Islam. Some of these younger guys will actually try to defend it. Now, the older generation, they understood if the crowd never hears about this, then you never have to respond to it. You don't have to answer it. They don't know that it's an issue. They're completely ignorant. And it's best, this was their goal, it's best to keep everyone, Muslims and non-Muslims, completely ignorant about these issues in Islam. That way you never have to defend them. They understood, hey, once you acknowledge that these things exist, it doesn't matter if you've given a defense of it, you've acknowledged that it's there, and now everyone knows. But it's that younger generation that was saying, oh, no, we can defend this. We will defend child marriage. We will defend killing apostates. We'll defend subjugating the world and so on. And so I said, look, instead of going to the organization and saying, who is your representative and what topic is he willing to debate? I said, let's put the challenges out online. Here are the topics we want. Who's willing to defend their prophet on this issue? And all of a sudden we started getting people who are willing to defend. Was Muhammad a prophet? Is the Quran the word of God? These kinds of things. Are there moral problems in Islam? Started getting debates. Eventually, until even recently, I've had 2 debates on whether Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl, and the moral implications thereof, and so on. So people didn't realize this change that's going on. The younger generation thinks we can defend Islam, not realizing, oops, cat is out of the bag. You just acknowledged it. For years, the Muslim representative said we were lying, called us racists and Islamophobes for saying that these things are in Islam. And now you guys are saying, yeah, of course it's in Islam, and we're defending it. So in other words, you just proved us right for decades. You proved that the Muslim organizations and the Muslim representatives for decades were completely lying. And you're acknowledging to the entire world, yes, these things are part of Islam, and you think you're doing a good job because you're defending it. You're saying, oh, but look, there are Old Testament verse that says this, and you don't realize the big story is you just admitted that generations of your guys were complete liars, that our guys were telling the truth the entire time. And now everyone is going, whoa, wait, it does teach that? Oh my goodness, we've got an issue here. And the apart from that, so apart from like decades of us being blasted on every side, now we're vindicated and we're having this kind of ultimate told you so moment. In addition to that, you've got these guys, and they're running around bragging about it, not realizing, thinking they're doing a great job proving us right. And now the entire world is convinced, slowly becoming, because there are still people who've been misled by being completely manipulated for decades. Now they're catching on. Now they're finally catching on. Okay, Robert was right. Everyone else was lying. But the additional thing is these young guys, it's in their heads. Hey, wait a minute. We can bring up that Muhammad had sex with a little girl, because when we bring up the fact that Muhammad had sex with a little girl and we defend it and say child marriage is good, then when the Christians say, no, it's bad, we can lie and say, but Mary was 12. And Rebecca was 3, and we can just make that up, and we can lie because people are too stupid to go look up the sources, right? Mm-hmm. So they think, we're good to go. And so they feel okay getting into a situation where people are going to make fun of their prophet for having sex with a little girl, because they think they'll sort of balance that up by saying, oh, but we can say Mary was 12, and they think that evens it out. And they just here's what they don't realize, guys. You are getting into an insult battle when you are the worst people in the world who deal with insults. You know what I mean? They're the worst people. It's like they are the most fragile people. I'm talking about the Dawa guys. They are the most psychologically fragile people in the world. They can't stand one word of criticism. They lose their minds.
Like Mo.
It would seem to me, if you can't stand insults, if your prophet cannot stand up to criticism and mockery, you should probably be the nicest people in the world and not upset anyone, but you don't. It's, let's go there. This is a good time to start insult battles with everyone. And everyone's going to start heaping it on them. And these guys are the worst in the world when it comes to dealing with mockery. We're pretty good in Christianity at dealing with mockery. We've been putting up with it for a long, long time. They're horrible at it. They can't stand it. They lose their minds. And somehow it makes sense in the minds of these young guys. Let's get into an insult battle. oh yeah, let's bring it on because I think I can take it. And I don't think you can. And I think Christianity can take it. I don't think you can. I think any ideology except yours can deal with it better than you can. So if you guys want to start getting into these insult battles, which the previous generation of dais understood, do not get into this situation because we can't take this. You guys think, but I can take it. Yeah, you can. Your prophet, your religion can't. So that's a situation where it's like a boxer. I mean, imagine two boxers who are like equal strength, equal punching power, something like that. If one of them has a glass jaw and the other has an iron chin, the glass jaw guy is stupid for stepping in there. He's just completely moronic for stepping in there. Why? He gets tapped on his, I can't take it, right? The other guy, okay, go ahead, hit me. What are you going to do? So anyway, that's a situation where I'm sitting there looking at this going, this is like perfect. I mean, this is ultimate vindication here. And it means that as for all these years we thought we weren't making progress because it's so few people who are catching on. We actually are. I mean, we forced them to drop their lie about perfect preservation. We forced them to drop their lie about scientific miracles. We forced them to drop their lie about what Islam teaches and, child marriage and killing apostates. So when we're making them admit all of these things, and they think, wow, we're doing a great job here, dude. Hey, look, see right here. That's you, Dais. You're right in our hands.
It's amazing to me, David. It's been an exhilarating couple weeks with all this coming out, and the open admission. Yeah, we want to kill the apostates and all this. And what's wild about it is that I realized these guys are believing the nonsense that's actually in their own tradition. Because, I'm working on, a new book, Muhammad, A Critical Biography, going through the Sirah literature again, comparing the different versions of the story, showing how none of this has any historical basis. And in the stories, of course, we have several incidents where, particularly when it comes to stoning adulterers, there are the famous stories of the Jews, the rabbis, holding their hand over the scripture. And Muhammad says, read what it says. Now move your hand. And he makes them admit that the scripture says, kill the adulterers, and that they're not obeying what God told them to do, and the Muslims are. And, it reminds me of all this business that's going on nowadays with what you mentioned there in passing. Oh, but in the Old Testament it says this. These guys clearly don't have the first foggiest notion of the role of the Old Testament in Christianity. And so they think, oh my goodness, these guys are just like the rabbis, and they're holding their hand over the scriptures, and we're telling them to move it and showing them what's in their own books, and we have won. And they don't realize that Christianity doesn't work that way, has never worked that way. This has nothing to do with liberalism. It has to do with how Christianity was constituted from the beginning. And every Christian with a second grade Sunday school education understands that. But they keep going on and saying, oh, but you see, killing the apostates, making war against non-believers, it's all in your own Bible. You're just not following it. And every last Christian in the world knows, well, that's not how we understand or have ever understood our Bible. And now you are exposing to the world that this is what your religion is actually all about, when we are quite secure in our understanding of our own that it's not about that. And so once again, they're way out there on these positions that their older forefathers have concealed for years, and they're openly admitting it all and then claiming victory, as if they think now they're going to sweep the West. Well, actually, now the West looks like it's waking up to what they're really all about.
And I have to say, it's not just the fact that they don't understand. Okay, here's a covenant that Christians are under, and these are the commands that are connected to our covenant, and that you have different covenants in the Bible. You have a covenant with Noah. With a covenant with Noah, you could eat anything. There were no food restrictions. You get the covenant with the children of Israel. There are all kinds of food restrictions. You get to the new covenant, you don't have those same food restrictions anymore. So it just makes no sense to say, oh, here's a command from a different covenant. Therefore, anyone under any time is under this covenant. Even Muslims wouldn't reject that. I mean, even Muslims would reject that because the Quran specifically says that Jesus came to alter elements of the law, and they have a doctrine of abrogation. But what's interesting is they don't just it's not just that they don't understand basics like old covenant, new covenant. They don't even understand like Judaism. I mean, going back to Muhammad making the Jews enforce the punishments of the Torah when the Jews weren't doing that. There were reasons the Jews weren't doing that, right? These punishments were connected to an entire temple sacrificial system with priests involved and so on. And these things were all connected. Once all of that breaks down, it's like we've broken the covenant. We've broken the covenant. This does not. You don't see Jews going around the world and saying, "Hey, we're gonna carry out all these penalties in other places around the world." So you get down to Saudi Arabia, you get down there, and Muhammad's going, "Oh, they're not enforcing this penalty. They're not even allowed to enforce that penalty. They're not supposed to enforce that penalty." And he's forcing them because he has the same mentality that our Dawa friends have. Oh, it says it right. It says it right there. I mean, it says it right there. So that means that means they gotta do it.
And we are proud of that.
Yeah.
So that's actually an interesting case that they are just as thick and full of misunderstanding as Muhammad was, as depicted in the Sirah literature. So they're just imitating their guy again.
Yeah, he imprinted his own stupidity and idiocy on his da'is.
Hey, I got a question here from the broadcast, David. Are y'all going to report on some jihad this week? But maybe since he said y'all, I should say, are y'all going to report on some jihad this week? Yeah. So I'll tell you, Harvey, sure. we're going to get to it right now, man.
Yeah. If you go deeper in West Virginia, they say yuns and not y'all. They go, hey, Yun's going to report on some jihad this week.
That's too far north from me, man. All right, we're going to report on some jihad. David, I have a new section here, actually, and this is a new thing. A new wrinkle in the old jihad, and that is not the stupid infidels and not the violence. We got plenty of those, but we also have the new section in which the mask slips. And so it's just kind of what we've been talking about so far here. And thank you, Harvey. We have, I think, our old pal Ali Dawa, first off. There he is. And as has been noted, his video has finally gone viral after many years. His video calling for the murder of apostates. And this is something, of course, that Daniel Hakikaju and Jake, the metaphysician, also admitted on the Patrick Bet David podcast. So it's out in the open now. Killing people who leave Islam is part of the deal. You get in, but there's no outdoor. And
you check in, but you don't check out.
You got anything to say about Ali Dawa and the mask slipping there? Now is the time.
Well, again, it's just amazing because it's like, to be fair, you do have plenty of Muslims who either don't know that Islam has a death penalty for apostasy, or they reinterpret it somehow. So there are Muslims who will say, oh, when it says, if anyone leaves his Islamic religion, kill him, what it really means is if anyone leaves his Islamic religion and then goes out and joins a foreign military and then comes and attacks you, then you can defend yourself. Yeah, right. Because they've been programmed to think, oh, it's all self-defense. It's all self-defense. They've heard that for years in the West. And so they interpret everything in the light of self-defense. So there are Muslims who think that way. But there are also people who know exactly what Islam teaches and they just lie about it, right? There are people who just flat out lie about it. And the older generation of da'is, I mean, they know exactly what Islam teaches. So they're just lying about it. And then the younger generation comes along. What are you lying for? We'll just tell you that it's here. And again, not realizing you just proved us right, and you proved all your earlier guys liars. And they don't seem to care. We're defending Islam, right? And proving us right, and proving that all your guys for the past few decades were complete liars. They're doing work that we couldn't possibly have done. When we're saying it and they're saying, no, that's not true, that's a lie, we don't believe that. There are plenty of people looking at this and say, well, okay, if they tell you what they believe and these guys are saying they believe the opposite, who are we going to believe? We're going to believe these guys who's saying what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
And we're saying, no, actually, some of these guys may believe that, but that's not what Islam teaches. And some of them believe it's okay to lie about it. And then these guys come along. Yeah, that's right. Everyone before it, they were all lying about it. David and Robert, they were right. Yeah. Wow. We showed you. Yeah, you sure did. Gosh, I love Ali Dawa. I love Ali Dawa. I love Muhammad Hijab. Jake, the Muslim metaphysician, he's kind of new, but I love the direction he's heading. Sheikh Uthman, they got me. The Islamophobes got me. Whoa, give me more fame. Cheer for me. I got stabbed with this vial of fake Halloween blood. And then, of course, Daniel Hakikachu. He's the cherry on top of that Islam destroying ice cream sundae. So my goodness, these are awesome times. You couldn't if you sat back and said, what is the ultimate dream squad? I mean, the ultimate dream team. You remember back in the day when the U.S. finally got to send professional basketball players to the Olympics instead of just college players, right? And all of a sudden it's Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and all these guys going over there representing the U.S. They're it's like 787-2 winning these games and so on. The ultimate dream team for destroying Islam is not Robert Spencer or David Wood, anyone on our side. It's these guys. Like if you had gone back 10 years and said, David Wood, who do you want representing Islam 10 years from now to really expose it? It'd be, I don't know, a couple of narcissists, some guys who are really honest about things like killing apostates and child marriage. I mean, let's get some guys who are just flat out defending child marriage from the Muslim sources and saying there's nothing wrong. Can we get some guys like this? Some guys who love to start insult battles, love to heap abuse, aren't trying to build bridges. They want to burn people's bridges as soon as they start building them. That's who you want. And boy, we got them. We got everything. Like they are beyond my wildest dreams. Everything we could have hoped for in there. We can sit back and watch, but now we can pour a little gasoline on the fire here and there. Keep it going.
Big fun. Oh yeah. Okay, let's get to some stories here. More in the mask slipping department, though. This, David, have you seen this?
I have not.
Is what do you think that is that the gentleman is holding there?
Looks like a toy rocket or missile or something.
It is indeed rocket shaped or missile shaped. But that is actually a bottle of perfume.
Oh, nice.
That is a new perfume that is being sold in Gaza. Now get this, you're going to love this. It has the smell of burning tires. Can you imagine? I mean, maybe this is what the virgins in paradise really think is a turn on. But gunpowder and burning tires and a delicate hint of the gasoline used in Molotov cocktails.
It reminds me of I don't know if you saw Anchorman, but there was a scene where he's had this cologne called Sex Panther.
I didn't see it.
He goes, 60% of the time it works every time. And apparently it smelled like diapers filled with Indian food was the description. But
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so this is good. Yeah. This is this jihadi perfume. We got hey, if there's a way to order that, you got to get some of that. We'll have a product review where we wear it and walk around our wives. Like, what is that smell?
That's the smell of paradise.
The smell of paradise, baby. Smell it.
that what is that from? There's a hadith, right? Where somebody says, you will never smell paradise And I was thinking, what does paradise smell like? Maybe a cheap bordello or something. I don't know. But
I smell
maybe it smells like
gunpowder.
gunpowder and burning tires. Okay, we have more masks slipping all over the place. Let's see. Uh, oh, actually, this is a breakdown in the leftist Islamic Alliance story. And that comes because the UN relief agency, refugee agency for the Palestinians, the UNRWA, they issued a code of conduct, and it is guaranteed to protect the rights of various LGBTQ people. And so there have actually been protests in Gaza against this. And
No, whoa, whoa, whoa! What are you talking about? They're on the
yeah,
same
people,
side. They've been on the same side for 20 years, Robert. What are you talking
they
about?
have been, yes. And they still are in many ways. But in Gaza, they said these groups do not exist among the Palestinian people, much less they should have rights. Trans people, men who think they're women, and all that madness. They are protesting, and so I think that it's yet another indication that the alliance might not be long for this world.
Yeah. Oh man. Can you imagine once that breaks down? Like we're talking about these "I told you so" moments, and we've been saying it for 20 years. Hey guys, you two being allies makes absolutely no sense. You are apart from your desire to control everyone who disagrees with you. You guys have nothing else in common.
Yep.
And they're like, "Oh, well, we're best friends. We're best buddies against you." And then, yeah, see how that works out. We knew which side it wasn't going to work out for. Right? We knew which side was gonna be on the losing end of that alliance.
Oh
But
yeah.
it's just funny because now you have all these Muslims who are recognizing, okay, well, we're going to sever ties with this group, throw them under the bus, even though they've protected our prophet for decades now from criticism. These are the guys, these guys on the left, they were the ones who, for decades now, have called anyone who criticized Muhammad or the Quran a racist, Islamophobic, hate mongering bigot. But now we're throwing them under the bus. And we're going to align with all the people that we called racist, Islamophobic, hate mongering bigots for the past couple decades. And those are going to be our new allies.
And the
And
worst
then,
part of
but
it is that so many of those people are pathetically grateful and think, oh, hooray, now we can be pals with the Muslims. And they have no idea about the status of the non Muslim in Islamic theology.
And it's just hilarious to watch because people keep trying and it keeps ending in disaster. Jordan Peterson tried. He tries like, hey, let me get Muhammad Hijab on here to explain Islam for everyone, eh? And then a few months later, it's I don't like your Allah. How about no? I don't want your misogynistic mullahs. And he's realizing, wait a minute. He thought, oh, hey, I'm complaining about LGBTQ stuff. They're complaining about LGBTQ stuff. That means we're on the same side. Not realizing, whoa, these guys actually believe this stuff. So he found out the hard way. His daughter Michaela found out the hard way. Patrick Bet David just found out the hard way. I'm going to get all these guys together and build bridges. We'll have common ground and go out there and we'll make a difference. Whoa, one side actually wants to kill the other side. This isn't good for bridge building. So they seem to be realizing much quicker that it's not going to work than the left did.
Indeed. I hope so. Okay, on to Baalbek, the ancient Roman city in Lebanon. They've just opened a museum, David, which is always nice. Museums can be very educational. But this, David, this is the world's first Jihad museum.
That is going to be the biggest museum in the world.
That's right. There's an awful lot of wings they're going to have to add to whatever they've got now. They've got a lot of weapons. They've got Hezbollah tanks, drones, and rockets. But it seems to me that they're going to have a decent Jihad museum. Then they're going to have things from pretty much every continent except Antarctica. Artifacts from
Give them time, Robert.
Yep. It's going to be a massive.
We will slaughter the penguins in the name of Allah.
Yes.
But I mean,
Go
ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It, I'm just saying that they're going to need, the broken idols from the Hindu temples,
Mhm.
the destroyed remnants of the Jewish temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, remnants of the churches that have been converted into mosques, and material from the World Trade Center. And this is just a very preliminary list. If we talk about 1,400 years of jihad, well, you could have 1,400 floors in this building.
And also the Muslim groups who lost. I mean, Rashid pointed that out in your discussion on the PBD podcast that you had groups that dominated Islam, that were dominant, and then later on they lose, and then they're killed for holding those views, even though
Mm-hmm.
they were the majority position and so on.
The
But
Mutazilites.
you've had those, and there were even times where Shias were the most powerful and so on. Matter of fact, you know this, there were Shias who went and took the Black Stone.
Yes,
Took the Black
the
Stone.
Karmatians.
Yeah, they kept
Yes,
it. They kept it. They defiled everything in there. They regarded it as all as idolatry, right? All
yep.
these practices as idolatry, and then they keep it, and then they eventually give it back, and it's all broken to pieces because
They
they
threw
broke
it
it.
back. Yeah, they
Yeah,
threw it back in, and
and
it broke into 9 pieces.
so you've got that's all part of this. But I mean, think about this. I've been to the Holocaust Museum in Israel, and I've been to the Holocaust Museum in D.C. But when you talk about Holocaust Museum, you're talking about a pretty narrow part of history. I mean, even if you go, even the parts of the museums that go into the background of like the ideas that were leading up to it and so on, you're still in a very narrow part of history. And there's a ton of stuff to cover because these are a ton of horrible stuff happened. But I mean, with jihad, you're talking about 14 centuries. I mean, you're going to have to turn an entire country into this museum of jihad.
Well,
It's
I
going to
think in
take up an entire
Lebanon they're
country.
well on the way. They're well on
Yeah.
the way in Lebanon. They're working
The
on that.
entire country of Lebanon is going to have to become the
The Jihad
museum of
Museum.
jihad. Yeah, to actually cover it and do it justice. And trust me, guys, we want you to do it justice. We want you to do justice to that topic.
Okay, David. The other big news is somebody we all know and love had a birthday this week, and I'm betting you know who I'm talking about. The Prophet himself,
Hmm.
Muhammad. It was his birthday, and in Pakistan, there was a crowd of people celebrating his birthday, and a jihad suicide bomber decided to give him, that is Muhammad, the best gift of all, and that is he blew himself up, murdered at least 52 people, wounded 70 others. And I think that was a really thoughtful gift for Muhammad's birthday. Can you think of a better gift on Muhammad's birthday than mass murder?
No, and I mean, people, they don't understand how all these things are connected. Like when Muhammad is condemning the Jews and I mean, he condemned them for various things. Some of them completely made up, like Jews worship Ezra and so on. It's completely made up stuff. But one of the times he was calling for the Allah's wrath on the Jews and Christians was because they make the graves of their important people into shrines and so on. And so there's part of this idea in Islam that you don't treat you don't treat your religious figures in this way because you're bordering on idolatry, which is weird because I mean Islam is the most idolatrous nonsense in the world. It's the entire universe revolves around Muhammad. But notice you can there are people, look at this, I'll go on a killing spree here. It's weird. It reminds me of like Thanos. So Thanos in the Marvel movies, he decides, for a social justice program, he's going to kill half of all people. That way there's more food and supplies for the people who are left. In the comic books, he was always trying to impress Death. He was actually in love with Death, who's an actual person in the comic books, and he's always trying to impress Death by slaughtering half of the population of the universe, trying to impress Death. But that's what some of these jihadis seem like with Allah. Like I'm going to try and impress Allah by how many people I slaughter in His name, and it for some reason it keeps coming up. Like you'd think. Like notice if we saw someone do that for Jesus, hey, I'm going to impress Jesus by slaughtering a bunch of people in Jesus' name. Everyone would recognize that guy as a complete nut job. So then people who have our background, they see someone else go out and slaughter a bunch of people in the name of Allah, and we think, oh, this guy must be a nut job. And it's like, have you not noticed that these nut jobs keep popping up from completely different parts of the world? Like, it's just like, it doesn't seem to be random. Doesn't seem to be random, like crazy people arising. It seems they're getting it from somewhere, but they never explain where.
And when ISIS declared its caliphate, there were Muslims from 100 countries around the world who traveled there to join up. And it wasn't 100, it was thousands of them. And so you got to think. Everybody thought this was a terrible perversion of Islam, as we were told in the West. Anyway, we should do some violent jihad stories, David, as grim as they are. We've spoken many times about the jihad against Nigeria. It was quite busy this week. We had 15 Christians murdered in Kaduna State, 32 others kidnapped in a jihad raid. And of course, chapter 47, verse 4 specifies that you can kill or enslave or ransom the prisoners you take, the people you abduct in these escapades. Also in Kaduna State, we had Muslims invading a different Christian village in Takanai, murdering 4 adults and 2 children. 10 farmers murdered in Borno State, 9 others abducted. And meanwhile, I want you to know, David, the Nigerian government is on the case. The Nigerian government has had actually several members of the Nigerian Air Force have been detained since October 2021. So that is now coming up to 2 years. It was mid-October, so it's going to be 2 years next week. And these men have been detained because they spoke at a Christian event. So let that sink in, as they say these days. You have jihadis running rampant all over Nigeria, and nothing is done. And some Air Force officers speak at a Christian event,
building bridges,
immediately arrested and are in prison ever since. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it seems I don't know. It seems the jihadis are focusing on certain strategic areas, and Africa's one of them. They focus on like long-term plans. I understand we could take any one of these countries, and if we work hard enough, we'll turn it into a Sharia compliant hellhole that everyone wants to get out of. But even the Muslims will want to get out of there, like they want to get out of every Muslim country, and then they'll move to the West, and we'll just keep doing that. The areas where we can like wreak havoc and turn it into a Sharia compliant hellhole, we'll do that, and then everyone will want to leave, and they'll go to other countries and then spread Islam there. And if we just stay the course, we're good to go. We win in the long run.
It's happening now, because I got more. Right next door to Nigeria is Niger, and several hundred jihadis attacked the military there, and a number of people, let's see, I believe 5 were killed. Oh no, 5 were killed in an accident, but another 7 were injured. Anyway, there was the attack on the military, and that just indicates yet again that the governments in these various countries are either unable or unwilling to deal with the jihad threat. The jihad groups appear to be more powerful than the local militaries. In Cameroon, also in the same area of the world, in Cameroon, there was a jihad attack on some men who were fishing, and 30 of them were kidnapped. 10 were murdered after they refused to pay taxes to the jihadis.
Yep, that's exactly what ISIS did.
Exactly.
Yep, because that's exactly what the Quran says.
Mm-hmm.
You fight the Jews and Christians until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued.
And so we have the jihad all over spreading. in West Africa and Central Africa. Then over in East Africa, in Somalia, the jihadis struck at a meat market, murdering 6 people, wounding 14, and at a restaurant. And so, once again, they are showing that they are more powerful than the local security forces. Meanwhile, shall we head to Europe? Oh, I'm sorry. We also have in Nigeria. I actually did not have this one with the other Nigeria stories by mistake. 25 members of a Christian church choir on their way to a funeral were kidnapped. And so they can be ransomed. The witless officials pay the ransom, and then that just finances more jihad and more kidnappings. Okay, Europe. Europe is always more jihad.
Yeah, and by the way, notice that system I just mentioned.
Yes.
That system I just mentioned, where I mean, it's evil. It's like brilliant but evil. That's why when you say brilliant and evil, that makes it seem demonic, right? But this system where, I mean, Islam just doesn't do a good job making a place where anyone wants to live. Everyone wants to get out of there. If it's a Muslim country, I mean, Jews want to get out of there, Christians want to get out of there, Muslim minority groups want to get out of there, and even like average Muslims who, who don't happen to be rich want to get out of there. But then they want to get out of there as fast as possible. But these Muslims who want to flee these areas because no one wants to live in them, they go to Western nations, and a lot of them are fine. They're like, hey, I just want to get out of there. I just want to live my life and work and so on. But then they have their kids, and then the Dawa guys come and radicalize their kids and turn them and then end up sending them back to join ISIS and so on. But it's like, I mean, notice it's like this brilliant system for turning the entire world into a bloodbath, right? Because I mean, Islam is great at producing instability wherever it goes, right? In countries that are completely Islamic, does great job at producing instability, makes people want to move to another place, and then over time, complete instability there until everything breaks down, and it just, the end result is not like a well-organized, well-thought-out Sharia state, because they can't. The groups never agree with each other, and they always end up fighting forever. And so the end result is just anarchy. And Islam does great at ultimately establishing chaos and anarchy.
And then once the infidels have fled or been bled dry, then there has to be more jihad to conquer more infidels, to plunder them and keep the whole thing going.
Good system. Definitely sounds like it came from God.
Ha! Yes. If God is a big shark. Okay. Germany. We have a gentleman in Germany who he was thinking, I want to look stylish, yeah? I want to look attractive for the ladies. And he decided he was going to wear a prayer cap, a kufi. The Muslim version of a yarmulke, actually, the prayer cap that you often see Muslims wearing in various countries. I forgot. I have one. I was going to wear it tonight, but that's just going to have to wait.
I got one around here somewhere. I got a couple around here somewhere.
Yeah. I remember, well, anyway, that's a long story. I won't get into it because we got more jihad to go. He decided to wear it, and he walked into a bar, and he orders...
Sounds like a joke.
Yes. A non-Muslim wearing an Islamic kufi walks into a bar.
And the bartender says, "Hey, get out of here. We don't serve Muslims in the bar." And the guy goes, "No, it's just part of my new outfit."
Yes, he says, "I don't want to eat the Muslims. I just want a beer." So anyway, a couple of Muslims are in the bar. Why they're in the bar, unexplained. But they see him and they say, "What are you doing wearing the kufi?" Probably they didn't sound like Colonel Klink, but anyway, they beat him.
Ways of making you answer a question.
They tell him that it was disrespectful, that he should choose his headgear more wisely, and they beat him and break his nose. All right, that's one story. The
Um,
other story related to this, David,
Isn't that
is
funny though?
the
Wait, hang on.
yes,
That discussion. I mean, if this guy knew anything he was talking about, that discussion would have been pretty funny because he would have been, "Hey, what do you got? What are you Muslims doing in this bar? What are you Muslims doing in a bar? And
yeah,
you're supposed to play around on this haram stuff. You complaining about me?" And their answer would have been, "What are you talking about? We are planning to do jihad. In which case, all of this is forbidden. All of this is
yes,
forgiven. It's all
yes.
everything forbidden is forgiven once we do jihad." And would have been awesome.
That's right. Yeah, nobody gets that even to this day.
No.
I got an email this morning from some guy saying, "How can you say this was a jihadi?" I don't even remember which guy he was talking about. He was seen drinking beer in a bar. Okay, come on, this
Yeah.
is basic stuff. You still don't understand. The idea is chapter 21, verse 47 of the Quran, ladies and gentlemen. The great scales. Allah puts all your good deeds on one scale, your bad deeds on the other. Whatever outweighs, you go to paradise or you go to hell.
And
So
and this there are two variations of this. One, there's the idea that hey, if I die fighting the unbelievers in for the sake of jihad, then I'm going to be forgiven. So hey, since I'm planning on doing this tomorrow, I can do whatever I want tonight. I can go
yeah,
clubbing, I can bang a bunch of prostitutes, I can drink all night, I can do whatever I want because I'm going to paradise as of tomorrow. So there's that, but then there's this idea of Muslims who grow up and they're not living according to Islam and they party a bunch and so on, go clubbing, all this stuff when they're young. And
hmm
then all of a sudden they start taking Islam seriously. But as you pointed out, there's this scales system and they're never sure whether whether they're going to be able to balance out those scales. And so they're in a state of perpetual terror and anxiety. I don't know what's going to happen to me if I die, unless this is where the recruiter comes in. Well, unless you die for the sake of Allah in jihad. And then you've got these people who haven't lived according to Islam their entire lives, and they finally take it seriously, and they're steered in the direction of jihad as the only way they could be sure that their previous sins are balanced out. And then they go out and they kill specifically because of what their religion teaches as the only way that they can know they're saved. And then the media say, "Oh no, here are pictures of this person at a club when he's younger. See, he's not a real Muslim. He's just a random clubber who decided to go out and slaughter people in the name of Allah one day."
so that's it. It just happened. It was a total accident. Anyway, the Central Council of Muslims in Berlin, the head of the Central Council of Muslims, Ayman Mazyek, he heard about this guy who was attacked wearing a kufi and his nose broken. And so he wrote Muslims as Victims, a classic Islamophobic act. Anyone who doesn't understand that, first think, then write. Anti-Muslim racism. That was a hashtag he added to his tweet or his X or whatever it is. But the thing is, uh, this was not an act of racism unless the Muslims were of a different race from the German, uh, and they were not the victims. Maybe he got confused because the victim was wearing a kufi, but he was not a Muslim. And so it's an Islamophobic act now, as far as Ayman Mazyek is concerned. And I think, well, maybe probably a lot of the lists of Islamophobic acts are misunderstandings or willful misapprehensions of this kind. All right, in Britain, we have this gentleman, Muhammad al-Barad. And Muhammad al-Barad was a PhD student who was studying engineering. And he used his study of engineering to build a drone that could carry a bomb or a chemical weapon for ISIS. Now, David, I thought this was confusing because people tell me that poverty causes terrorism.
That's
Poverty and
exactly what
ignorance.
I was thinking. It's poverty and climate change. Those are the causes of jihad. And Westerners acting like bullies all the time and so on. So Yeah, I don't get it when well-educated, well-off people decide that the Quran orders them to do this kind of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a mystery. I don't know.
Yeah, I can't figure it out. And it may never mystery may never be solved. Oh, wait a minute! Until all the young guys start admitting it.
Yes, that's right. They're doing our job for us. Okay, we got a few stupid infidels here. Let's
Oh,
see if
we've
we
got some
can.
stupid infidels.
I know, oddly enough, I found some stupid infidels. I know it's surprising. But in Germany, there was a big brawl among the migrants, and the migrants are mostly Muslims in Germany. So I don't have information in particular, but in general, you have a great majority of Muslims comprising the migrants in Germany. Merkel, the former chancellor, opened up Germany to mass migration in 2015, and the
Smart.
great majority of people who came in were Muslims. So there was a brawl, a big brawl in the city of Lübeck. And the German police, in response, threatened to arrest anyone who distributed video of the brawl. They are much more concerned that the video get out and people start getting a bad idea about mass migration than they are that maybe they should not have these migrant brawls in the middle of German cities. And sure enough, by the way, David, I had the video on one of the videos on Jihad Watch, and when I went back today to prepare for the show, I saw that it has now been removed. The German government, they are efficient. Yeah, they have been efficient for many years.
Oh yeah, they're efficient when they want to be. But when you said I have the video, I thought Germans are about to storm your house.
Well, you never know. You never know with Germans. They love doing that stuff, or
Yeah, they do.
their grandparents did anyway.
Yeah, bunch of
Uh,
scumbags.
Meanwhile, in the UK, actually, there was another protest comprised of Muslim migrants. They were not brawling in the UK; they were protesting. David, do you think they were protesting because people were hijacking their religion and committing acts of violence in its name?
Yeah, I mean, if Christians were going around slaughtering a bunch of people in the name of Jesus, that would be my top concern. So
Yeah,
obviously, that's what there's is going to be their concern because all religions are the same and teach the same thing, Robert.
that's it, man. No, they're protesting because they got spicy food, and the internet is not very reliable.
No. Okay. Well, there's that too. So there's a bunch of people slaughtering everyone in the name of our religion and going around saying, yeah, we're going to kill apostates and yeah, we want to marry 4 year olds and stuff. But you know, spicy food, marrying little kids. Yeah, let's go with spicy food
Yeah,
and
uh,
bad internet.
Muhammad didn't like spicy food, garlic. It's all no, all out for Bowden. Anyway, in New York State has given $23 million over the last few years to groups including the Muslim American Society, which is the public arm of the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States. And of course, the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States is dedicated, in its own words, to eliminating and destroying Western civilization from within. So it's good that New York State is funding that.
How much did
Uh,
they give?
$23 million, David, to
Let's get
various
it up.
Islamic groups.
Let's get it up to 100. What could
Oh,
go
I'm
wrong?
sure they'll get there because they never wake up. Meanwhile, I don't know if you've seen, but the Biden administration is infiltrated by Iranian spies. And this has now just come out that Robert Malley was the chief negotiator of the Biden administration for a new nuclear deal with Iran. And as it turned out, he was working with various spies of the Iranian government. And the chief of staff of the Pentagon Counterterrorism Office was an Iranian agent. And so Robert Malley was actually put on leave a few months ago, but a lot of these people are still in place. And of
Well, I mean,
course, anybody would have thought, well, it's a religion of peace, so we got to build bridges with the Iranians.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what they're doing with any of these other people. I mean, if you give Hunter a couple of prostitutes and a big old crack rock, I'm sure he'll tell you whatever, give you any information you want to know.
That's true. That's true. So, what do you really need all these people for? That's a good question. Let's see. Asim Munir. Asim Munir is the army chief of Pakistan. And Asim Munir has some news for us, David, here on This Week in Jihad. He said, this is a quote: Islam is a religion of peace, and there is no space for intolerance and extremism in Islam and society. Asim Munir.
That's a nice thought. What
Yes.
chapter and verse? What chapter and verse is that, Robert?
Yeah, where is that in the Quran?
Yeah, I must have missed that one.
Yeah, maybe some of the Dawagandists can tell us. Maybe Ali Dawa.
Oh, I remember that. That's chapter Trust Me, Bro.
Yes,
That's my favorite verse from chapter Trust Me,
it
Bro.
is. That is, and that's the favorite chapter. 532 and Trust Me, Bro.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Quran of the Western intelligentsia. All right, let's see. In the waning minutes here, there's quite a bit of other jihad that we have not covered. In India, ISIS is newly active. They are active in Africa, but also on the Indian subcontinent. And the Islamic State, actually in India, is now traveling around. They have these traveling trainers who are teaching people, going from state to state in India, and teaching people to make IEDs, which is a valuable skill, you got to admit.
Yeah, and it's I mean, it's not terribly difficult to do. Pipe bombs, pretty easy. Pressure cookers, pressure cooker bombs, those are pretty easy, and so on. So, yeah, it just sucks because you try to keep that info away from people because once you learn how to do it, it is hard to catch people who are dropping these things around various places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it took a little while to catch the Boston Marathon bombers, and they had like 70 cameras on these guys.
Yep. In the Islamic Republic of Iran, security forces fired on protesters. The protests are ongoing, and all hail to the protesters. They have tremendous courage in facing down this inhuman and bloodthirsty regime. They injured 23 protesters at least, and they were screaming a particular slogan as they shot the protesters. David, what do you think that possibly could have been?
This MAGA country.
That's right.
We can only imagine. Imagine there's no heaven. No, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar it is
Well,
for $100.
shocker.
Anyway, yeah, the Islamic regime in Iran, we should bear in mind that they understand when they crack down on the protesters that they are doing the work of Allah. They are the executors of the wrath of Allah. And they are firing on the protesters. They are carrying out Allah's sentence upon the protesters that they should be killed or crucified or their hands and feet cut off on opposite sides. As chapter 5, verse 33 of the Quran says, it's all about sowing terror in the hearts of the enemies of Allah. Terror is the only tool they have to deal with the protests. It's the one Allah prescribes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Can't say they're wrong as far as what it teaches.
And who's the biggest terrorist of all in Islam? It is Allah himself. We have former Prime Minister Abdelillah Ben Kirane in Morocco. And there was an earthquake in Morocco recently, and 2,900 people were killed, over 5,000 people were injured. And the former Prime Minister took to the airwaves and he said, "We must return to Allah, because everything that befalls a person is a warning. And the right thing is for us to review as a nation and find out whether what happened might also be due to our sins, transgressions, and violations." Now, he's been criticized for this, but I also want to point out that he's actually essentially recruiting jihadis when he says something like this. Because if you get the idea that the Quran says repeatedly that if you serve Allah, you will prosper in this world and the next, and if you disobey Allah, you'll suffer in this world and the next, then when bad things happen to you, you'll think, oh, I haven't done enough to please Allah, I got to do more. And that leads you straight to the best thing in the world to do, which is jihad, according to Muhammad's own words. And so you're just going to get more violence out of this.
And that was, by the way, that was exactly the reasoning of ISIS, right? That was the reasoning, because after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire and so on, and Western nations are completely dominant over Muslim nations. This caused a lot of confusion among Muslims. Like, what's going on here? We're supposed to be expanding until we subjugate the entire world, and everyone else is more powerful than us. What's going on here? And you saw a lot of nations trying to westernize, right? If you look at pictures of people of Iran from before the revolution, you'd think you were looking at people in California or something like that. Same with Afghanistan, right? They were trying to modernize, but then the alternative interpretation came in, was preached by the mullahs. Hey, no, 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 no. It's not that Islam is somehow wrong or Islam has this wrong, and these other guys have something right. It's Allah is not pleased with you because you are not living according in alliance with strict Sharia. That's why Allah is not blessing you. So if you want to continue the process of expansion and subjugating the world, you have to crack down on the Muslim community first, get them fully submitted to full Islamic Sharia. And that's why you have, the Muslim Brotherhood arising and the revolution in Iran, and then ISIS as well. But notice the reasoning of ISIS, the leader called himself Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. He's the new Abu Bakr, the Abu Bakr of Baghdad. What did he mean by that? Well, after Muhammad died, you had all these groups who rebelled because they didn't really believe in Islam. They were just terrified of Muhammad, and some of them did believe, but they didn't want to submit to some random guy. So they said, "Hey, we'll do Islam on our own." And Abu Bakr said, "I'm coming to kill you all. If you do not do exactly what I say, then I'm coming to kill you all." And he fought the apostate wars, and it wasn't just people who were announcing Islam. He said, if you even do your zakat improperly, and not exactly the way I tell, I'm coming to kill you. And so it's an epic bloodbath there in the Middle East. He subjugates everyone. And then what do you have? You have this period of massive expansion. So that's the idea of ISIS. We crack down on all this stuff, all shirk, all disobedience, all bid'ah, all hypocrisy. We crack down on all of that. And then Allah will bless us to subjugate everyone else. They tried that. It failed. Should have clued everyone in that maybe that other interpretation was correct, that Allah is just not with you, that God's just not with you. But now you've got other Muslim countries and Morocco basically saying the same thing. Hey, guys, you want to stop the earthquake? Was stop the earthquake? Well, then we need to go around slaughtering unbelievers in the name of Allah. That's not exactly what he's saying. He probably didn't even mean that, but people will get that impression. What it leads to. Yeah, that's the only solution, right? If disobedience is the cause of this punishment, what do we have to do? We have to end disobedience. How do we do that? Well, we have a system. You already brought it up. We have a system in place of dealing with things. We just go around slaughter everyone and bringing them in line with the commands of Muhammad.
That's it, man. It's endlessly self reinforcing. Because everything that goes wrong just makes you say, oh, I have to be even more fanatical. And they will keep coming and keep on being more fanatical. And so that brings us to the end of this marvelous episode of This Week in Jihad. We also will be more fanatical in standing for the truth, standing for justice, standing for love and peace. And so, ladies and gentlemen, until next week, thank you for watching, and pray, hope, and don't worry.